Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be on this incredibly gorgeous planet of ours. You've landed with us, Ultralife, today. My name's Josh Bellew.
I'm Adam Payne. Boy, we have an exciting guest today, Josh.
And you know, Adam, the thing for me is I think that this could easily be one of my, like what I would call my pet favorite segment that we keep coming back to. And even though we've got our next guest, who happens to be Ed Fletcher,
Yeah.
American Herbal Products Association. You met him, I believe, at the University of Tennessee.
Oh, Mississippi. Come on, get your
Mississippi,
states
okay.
right.
American Botanical Council, United Plant Savers, president of Native Botanicals. I think I was on his website not too long ago, Adam. I think 200 to 300 herbs or botanicals available. This guy is a supply chain sourcer, and he's one of our dear friends. And one of the things we love the most is he walks us out into nature, but this time it's probably not going to. Well, welcome, Ed. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Yeah, thank you for remembering the walks in nature. Yeah, today would be a snowy walk, and there wouldn't be anything but snow to see. So I'm glad to be here inside. Thank you.
Yeah, and gosh, yeah, you don't have a long handles and overalls on or anything. So I guess you're not taking us on any journeys today, right?
Not today. Next time.
You know, big question that people ask us and about not just the stuff that we make. I mean, people call us and they sometimes will grill us on what is the source of your materials? Are you testing for heavy metals or any contamination in your turmeric? Because I've heard that turmeric can have a lot of contamination in it. And yes, we actually, our suppliers are probably one of the better suppliers in the world. Not to brag too much. And we do a lot of testing on heavy metals and pesticides and all that stuff. But Ed, how you're in the field, you're touching stuff. You know how different suppliers, different manufacturers of supplements go about their business. Can you give us any advice, or our listeners any advice, as to how they can choose the right botanical supplements for themselves? Is there any help that we can provide them?
Sure. Yeah, I do get that question often myself, Adam, when I'm speaking at events or talking to people, and they just ask, how do I choose which one? And you had part of the formula right there, testing.
Testing, yeah.
Everything that you do to get the product into the bottle, the more testing you do, you're going to qualify it. The more auditing you do, the higher your price for higher quality is going to add to the price. So here's how I explain it. When someone says, okay, I want to take echinacea angustifolia. But when I go in the store, there's 7 brands on the shelf. They say, well, how do I determine which one to choose? And I said, well, the first thing you do is you spin the bottle around and you see if it's standardized. You don't need to know if it's standardized to chicoric acid, caftaric acid, echinacasides, because all, St. John's wort would be hypericin. Doesn't matter what the botanical is or what the standard is. But if the company goes to the extra effort to put standardized to this constituent at a certain level, then let's say 4 of those bottles are standardized and 3 of them aren't. So I would scoot the 3 that are not away because they didn't do extra testing. They didn't buy high enough quality material to make sure it was standardized. And so you're not getting a standard dose. And so let's see, now you've narrowed it down to 4 that say, okay, it's standardized. So in some instances, you could say, well, I want one that's standardized to a higher number or a lower number. But at the end of the day, what I tell them is to buy the most expensive one. And they kind of look glassed over a little bit. But the bottom line is, just like you said, Adam, it's supplements companies really just don't put a high price on something because they want to keep a fair price and a lower price to sell more.
Sure.
But the higher price goes from buying good quality material to start off with in the field, testing it properly, checking the dosage, and proper packaging and following on the dose. So generally speaking, the higher priced item is the one. And, I tell them to think about it. If you want to cut costs, go to Walmart or somewhere to cut costs, buy belts or buy your underwear, or buy socks. But
not what you're putting in your body, right?
Actually, I'm kind of a sock nut, so I cannot put cheap socks in my body. But that's just
okay. Me. Sorry, but if you're going to put something in your body for your health, why not pay and spend the extra to buy something worth it that's going to actually work.
Yeah,
Now-
the investment. What
yeah.
you're saying is that that the price is really in herbal products is in more or less reflective of
Yes,
the quality of the investment that went into
The
that product.
supply chain, the control, the
Now,
sourcing, the ingredients,
yes,
the testing, all of that,
and
right?
I mean, some of it's probably I know, not probably the brand of the company. They set sort of a price dynamic based upon their reputation. Like Terry Naturally, they tend to be pretty expensive products. But then again, Terry Naturally puts a lot of effort in general into testing.
So to really make this simple for our listeners, Ed, I would ask you this. We don't mind plugging other companies, especially with someone that has a background like you do. You're really behind the scenes and supply chain and sourcing, selling to different companies. Is there 2 or 3 companies out there that you would pretty much say, if you see one of their herbal products on the shelf, it's going to be something you can feel comfortable about purchasing?
sure.
Wow.
And I'll base that on uh, when I get an order from a customer or requirement, instead of getting a 1-page specification sheet, it may be 3 or 4 pages. It may be a lot more in depth. In other words, I know that to sell that customer what they require. So,
Gotcha.
sure, a couple of companies that I know require high quality because I've sold them higher quality material is Now Food, Now Health Group, or Now Food
Okay.
Group.
And they went through a real renovation several years ago,
Yeah.
and these
Yes.
days people think they're
We
pretty stout.
actually buy some materials from
We
Now.
do.
Yeah,
We
and
do.
because and I was actually we did a quality audit of their systems,
Yeah.
and they're top notch.
They stepped up their
They are.
game
In
big
fact,
time.
yeah, there was a batch we buy some pre-made fish gels from them for a product we make for one of our customers. And they actually they called us up to say, look, they just finished the batch of that product, but it was 0.1% below the specification on on DEA or DHA,
DHA.
right? And they were like, well, it's where our specification is within 10% and it's a little bit below that. Is that acceptable to you? And I was impressed that they
Yeah.
they were willing to go to
Even
the table.
asked. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, Now Foods. What's another one, Ed?
Just going back to Now's, I was good friends with the quality manager there and they actually invited me up a few years ago to talk to their purchasing department because they had
Oh,
a lot
really?
of change in the purchasing department. So I tried to give them some heads up on what to look for, because if you're just buying botanicals and you're used to buying bottle caps or, shoelaces, it's a whole different world. So I spent 2 days up there just giving them a heads up on ideas of what to buy from other people since I can't sell them everything. So yeah, I agree.
So did they want to hire you after you gave the talk up there, Ed?
No doubt.
Well, yeah, but I was kind of, yeah, Minnesota, I kind of thought about it. I think Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota, Alaska. Which one do I want to live in?
So
Well,
anyway, so another company that I feel and know that they require good raw materials and I respect and use their products is Nature's Way.
oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah,
Really?
and I believe they were acquired like 30 years ago by Twin Lab, if I remember right. I'm not sure, but I think they are one of their divisions. Could be wrong about that, but I think so.
I think New
Always
Chapter
liked
also
Twin
does a
Lab.
very decent job of
Yes.
testing. Gaia Herbals, they do a good
Yes.
job. There's some big
Yes.
brand names out there that I think are doing a real excellent job in their testing. But when we, I'll bring up some old dirt that we talked about last year, Ed. I was astonished at the last University of Mississippi meeting about how sophisticated the falsification of echinacea is, the golden seal.
Yeah.
So that the numbers that we had talked about last year were there's if you look at the supply and the demand of
Simple math,
echinacea,
isn't it?
there's only 25% of the current sales of echinacea are actually meet the actual production capacity in the marketplace. So that means that more than 75% of the echinacea products out there are at some level being falsified or are not representing the truth.
Yeah,
And there's some pretty sophisticated. Yeah, it was
I'll
like
tell you one thing that's I've gone to farms and seen people growing Echinacea angustifolia right beside Echinacea purpurea. and they're
Uh-huh.
going to have a problem with ID because they will cross, and they don't know
Interesting.
that. You got to, yeah, they don't know that. And then when you get it into ID, you're going to have a problem with your ID there. So that may be some of the problems.
Uh,
So
that could be.
I'm curious, Ed, with everything that's come down in the last couple of years related to COVID, and I
Mhm.
know, again, our previous conversations with you talking about this supply demand issue and you're a supply chain expert, so to speak.
Well,
You know, that you got a
he's
big
there. Yeah,
background. Yes.
yeah.
So has there been a struggle being able to keep herbs in the supply chain since through the COVID thing, or have you all escaped that? There has been trouble. Okay.
Oh yes, and I'll tell
Okay.
you, draw you a picture window whenever COVID first hit and people started losing their jobs,
Mm.
and staying at home, or they started losing jobs. Myself and several others, as a matter of fact, that are on the Botanical Raw Materials Committee of the American Herbal Products Association, had a conversation. We were concerned that people were the wildcat items, that the people were saying, well, I got all this spare time, I need money. We were afraid they were going to go out and over harvest a lot of the wild products.
Oh, wow.
Just the opposite happened. Whenever the
What?
stimulus checks started coming out, they
Oh,
started staying at home.
goodness. You guys
Yeah,
didn't have any product of
no,
wildcraft.
we
Oh,
did
my
not. And it
goodness.
was the last 2 years, everything for immune systems, the golden seal, the echinaceas, anything around pulmonary health, the pleurisy root and everything, they were wildcrafted items. It was hard to get them produced. So the shortage,
Wow.
and everybody was
Yeah,
just clamoring, trying to get material.
yes.
Elderberry.
Yeah. And
Elderberry is one that had a big issue because a lot of it comes from the Eastern Europe areas, and I
mhm.
know there was some adulteration there because there are a lot of other berries that you can mix in. So anytime you've got a shortage and a high
Yep.
demand,
It
that's when you
opens
look
that
for
door,
any.
doesn't it?
That's sambuca and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
With elderberry.
Yeah. And,
exactly.
we've got people right now, obviously, we just experienced a week of some really sub-zero temperatures here in Oklahoma and
Mhm.
some ice storms and things.
Yeah.
And I know echinacea is kind of one of those that always hits the wintertime. What are 3 herbs that really would be wintertime? I know you mentioned elderberry as well. Are there some favorites of yours for people that they're going through winter and all of a sudden a rhinovirus, some type of cold or some type of thing like that comes along? What are your core ones that you say, this is your wheelhouse, this is where you go?
Yeah, well, like you said, beside the normally combined echinacea and golden seal, you see that one a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, some of the teas for me, like my throat gets dry with the heat inside and everything, and
Right.
sniffles and things. Any of the teas especially with slippery elm. I mean, mention companies. A tea company that I really admire and know they buy quality is Traditional Medicinals.
Oh, love that
Mm.
company. Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because I didn't know
Yeah.
enough about them, but I buy their stuff a lot.
And
Interesting.
then
Really?
pleurisy
What?
root is a good one
All the
because
health food
it's.
stores.
Yeah, and then pleurisy root is one that I see in the winter because it support lung health.
Mm.
Boneset is one that also supports the
Oh, never
general
heard
health.
of that.
What's it
Does
called?
that have another name? Tell me that one again.
Boneset, boneset. Yeah, it's got another name, Eupatorium perfoliatum.
Oh, that one, of course. I think of that one in my sleep all the time.
You're joking.
No,
Of course I
yeah,
am.
it's commonly called
I know
boneset.
middle names. Okay,
Actually,
Boneset.
boneset was used back in the
With the
1918 flu
Spanish flu.
pandemic.
Yeah, the Spanish flu epidemic.
Yep, sure
And did
was.
it have did they report some sort of benefit with boneset?
What they said was it helped your body to break into a sweat, and then it helped your body naturally fight it off faster. It didn't
Oh,
prevent it,
interesting.
didn't stop it. It just supported your body in eliminating fever and flu type symptoms faster.
So I have to ask because names, especially in this world of botanicals,
Yeah,
like Stonebreaker, things like that.
yeah.
Stone
Is bone set literally something that they found for individuals that have broken bones in time of war or things like that? They give them to help them actually recover their bone health quicker?
They
who
had
knows?
used that as poultices, but I've never seen any actual research that proved
Okay,
it worked.
okay.
But yeah, they did use it as a
Interesting.
poultice. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, okay.
Well, we're going to go to a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to bring up an herbal that we've been talking about offline here. So, Josh, I'm Adam Payne.
Yeah, I'm Josh Bellion. You're listening to Ultra Life Today, and we'll be right back after this break with Ed Fletcher.
Yep, see you soon. Our mission is to take nature's most beloved botanicals and enhance them with our liquid protein scaffold technology. This helps it reach your cells faster and better. With exponentially enhanced bioavailability, you'll feel better every day. Ultra Botanica, the feel-good curcumin.
Welcome back to Ultra Life Today. We've been enjoying a fascinating conversation with one of our favorite people, Mr. Ed Fletcher, American Herbal Products Association, president of Native Botanicals, was just sharing with us. By the way, I'm Josh Bellion.
I'm Adam Payne.
And Ed was just sharing with us that there's a couple of brands out there. There's Nature's Way and there's Now that he feels good about.
Yep.
If people are just running in and they're not label readers like I am, they can go ahead and look at those and feel good about their sourcing, their ingredients, their testing.
And so there was two things. He said, look for whether the botanicals have been standardized,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then also, this is one of the categories, especially with herbal products, that higher price point actually does make a difference.
Okay, so Ed, we were talking off air about wintertime herbs and your own experience with one that I would say really qualifies for wintertime. I may even tag in after you share your experience, but I'm so fascinated because you started working in 1974, I believe, with your great grandfather. You
Yes.
started learning the binomial names of herbs, and fancy words like organoleptic became something to a much younger guy. And here you are now.
Organoleptic.
But you had an
word.
experience with something called pleurisy root. What is it, and what was your experience with it?
Right. So, yes, thank you, gentlemen. Glad to be back with you. So, yes, I was, you're right. I did start with my great grandfather, and I think I was staying with my grandparents. We had the cousins over playing. My other cousin, we were running around playing, and I noticed when I was short of breath, my side started hurting because pleurisy is an infection of the lining of your lungs. And when you breathe, you
It
may have
hurt.
felt the same. They said it's
Super
like you're
painful.
sandpaper. It's
Yep.
sandpaper
Wow.
rubbing. It just hurts. So
Super
all I
painful.
knew was I couldn't keep up with my cousins running and playing out there. And I went in and told my grandmother, and she said, go out there and dig that butterfly weed, which that's the ornamental common name of it, butterfly weed, because it is a
Nice.
beautiful, it's a milkweed. It's a beautiful orange flower. It attracts butterflies.
Interesting.
The medicinal name is anyway. I went and dug some of the roots. I brought it into her. So here I'm I guess I'm an 8 or 9 year old young boy, and I gave it to her. And I couldn't see on top of the stove, but I sat there and watched it. She put it in a pot, put something in it, stirred it. She played around with it for a while, and then that evening at bedtime, she said, "Come in here," and she made a poultice out of it and applied it directly around my abdomen where I was hurting and everything. All I know is the next morning I woke up, I could go out and play and keep up with my cousins. So I said,
Oh,
hey,
wow.
no inflammation in the lung. That's amazing. That's
yeah, I was
amazing.
just connected, digging a root, and then I felt better. So that was my first experience.
Those kinds of impressions are really important as we're growing up as kids.
And you know what gets me about those, Adam? Because
What?
I love topical things
Yeah.
that can travel through the skin. So many times things like an herbal poultice will actually work quicker applied to the organ of the skin than they will taking them internally. It's incredible.
Well, there's so many factors that depended upon that. I mean, transdermal absorption is a amazing opportunity.
Largest organ in the body.
In Russia and Central Europe, they do a lot of mustard plasters, so that counter irritants, and they use cupping, which comes out of Chinese traditional medicine. Where I used to I remember seeing my first wife was a Russian gal, and I remember seeing her stepdad. He had these big, huge welts on his back, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what disease? What's going on with
cupping?" And those things will last
no, these are just from mustard plasters, right?
Mustard plasters.
I mean, and it seemed to me, that whole world seemed to me like insanity. The whole idea that you would put something physically on your body to affect an organ that was underneath.
You getting ready to get baptized into the drug world,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Right?
There I am, about to go on my journey. It's just it's incredible. I mean, but this is the folk medicine at work. So you actually experienced the benefits of this early on as a kid.
I sure did.
And so I'm assuming that would translate well into things that happen to people. We turn on the heat in the wintertime, things get dry, things feel that kind of raspy, wheezy kind of thing going on. Lots of people that have allergies probably it hits them as well, because they turn on the heat, and what happens?
Right.
Mold and other things are coming out of their
Well,
heating
don't say
ducts.
that.
Oh, it is true. And but anyway, and so I know people are thinking, well, I just don't have any time at all to be able to put a poultice together and do something for my lungs, but you can take this internally, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's in teas. They have it in just supplement capsules too, but I like to take it as a tea myself.
Yep.
If I can't do it epidermal.
Teas are my favorite.
So where can people source these herbs directly? And is there a preferred way? I mean, we don't have the benefit of your grandmother pointing us to the backyard to go and dig up some of this stuff. Butterfly plant.
Yeah. You mean not in a finished product, but in a raw form that they can?
Well, I mean, either way, I mean, still as a finished product. I mean, I'm imagining that there are some health food stores that would have pleurisy root or something to the similar. What are the other generic names of it that people can find?
Well, the pleurisy root's going to be the main medicinal common name, the most recognized.
Right.
And I was mention of companies a while ago. This is a good time to bring up Frontier Herbs.
Oh, interesting.
They still sell in our local store. Most of the stores, they still sell a lot of their herbs in the whole form, so you can buy them in an ounce of the gram, and then you could make poultices directly out of that. Yeah,
very nice.
Boy, this is I can imagine somebody really getting into this and essentially becoming a naturist, a naturopath. Essentially, I mean, this is what we're talking about is naturopathy, isn't it? I mean, really going down into the herbs and creating remedies based upon the effects of these different botanical products.
I've got some books, Adam, that are written by master herbalists, and I don't know, there's something about those books that just I think I romanticize about that life. That's why when Ed goes out into the wild and he's taking us there, I'm just like, I so want to be there. I want to have that either great grandmother, grandfather, or that Native American ancestor of mine that's pointing things out to me.
Well, they're the medicine men,
and
right?
Put them in the pouch, gather them up. We'll show you when to pick them, what time to pick them, all of that.
Yeah, there's something really romantic about that notion of connecting to the earth, connecting to the plants, and understanding how God and Mother Nature, if you want to call it that, has provided all of these
Ed,
medications.
Speaking of that,
in the wild.
Ed, have you been all over the world picking herbs with native people, native populations, indigenous populations? God, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So tell me one of your favorite places or favorite couple of places or trips you've had with indigenous people where you were going to seek out a particular thing for maybe even a particular reason or just learning from them.
Yeah. So one of the most interesting trips and stories was a company, Epicac. Do you know the plant Epicac?
That's the plant that causes it for vomiting, right?
Yes.
Inducing vomiting for people that poison.
Interesting.
Yes, exactly.
So is that a plant? That's the plant name, Epicac, or is that the ingredient?
Epicac.
Wow, amazing.
I have an old bottle of that on my desk.
Me too.
Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Keep one at the refrigerator.
So
in the house.
it's native. It's native to Central America.
Oh wow.
But years ago, when the companies were making it, it was hard to get out of there, so they took it to India and tried to cultivate it. Well, they grew it. They figured out how to cultivate it and grew fine, but it did when they harvested and put it into a product, it didn't have that effect.
Wow. That makes sense.
So
these regions of the world have unique trace minerals and things in the soil, right?
So so I mean, somebody must have done the research to figure out why it wasn't being effective in other countries. No.
Yep, it did. And then they called me back and they said, "Hey, we want to get it from the native region. Can you help us?" And I said, "Yeah." So they said, "Well, we think it comes out of Costa Rica." Well, I did some research and said, no, it doesn't. It grows more native in Nicaragua.
Oh,
but then
wow.
they sneak it across the border and ship it out of Costa Rica because it's more Americanized. So anyway,
Huh.
I took I think it was a
That's
10-day trip.
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. I flew into Managua, got on a little puddle jumper plane. We flew across the largest lake in Central America there, Lake Nicaragua, big lake, landed. We jumped in a little, not a two-seater, but one aisle boat with seats on each side, rode down the Rio San Juan River for about 2.5 hours.
That's just
Then
great.
we
Wow.
got on a donkey. We got on a donkey and rode for about
A
an
donkey.
hour.
That's just
And then we
great.
got off. He said we have to walk from here. So I'm following this guide. You guys will like this story. I'm following this guide, and he's doing this through the jungle. And it rained. It's a rainforest. It rained. It stopped raining. And I'm looking down, trying to watch every step. And finally, we came to an opening. He said we rest here, and we sat down. And I said, "Why are you looking up all the time? I'm having to look down so I won't fall." He
Snakes.
said, "Anacondas."
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, he said anacondas. I said, "Okay, good. I'll follow you." So anyway, we hiked. So we hiked about another,
Wow.
I don't know, we hiked about another hour, and then we had to go to the family that owned the land where it grows. We went to their village and met them, and partake in the rituals there, just sitting down and getting to know them. And then they wanted us to sign a book that showed where we were and where we were from. But then they showed me where they're growing it in the woods. And here's how I helped them based on my horticultural background. The way they propagated it, they were asexually propagated. They were cutting the top of the plant off and sticking it in the ground. Well, they said they were only getting about 30% survival. And in any type
Interesting.
so I showed them the technique, two things. It's fairly simple. Whenever you do something like that, when you cut it off, they had to skin the outer bark to put it in the ground. And then also they were leaving the leaves on top, the full size of the leaf.
You want
So,
to top those
in other
little
words, a
guys,
full
don't you?
leaf is trying to support no root growth. So
Right.
all I did, told them to cut back half of the leaf. You need to leave some for photosynthesis. So they cut half the leaf off and stripped the outer bark so it would root easier. And they said by that they had 90% survival, and it grew. They could harvest in 2 years instead of 4 years. So
Well,
it made
what
them
a
happy.
what
That's
a
phenomenal.
cool contribution you made in that incredibly unusual and kind of ancient path that you went on there. You've been listening to Ed Fletcher, and our time goes way too quickly when he is here. This is Ultra Life Today, and you can find us on YouTube. You can find us at ultratoday.com. And look up, but we need to have Ed back again very soon.
You guys have just blown my mind with all of this. It's just so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Ed, we so enjoy having you on our show. Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
come
guys.
back
Enjoy it.
anytime. And you've been listening to Ultra Life Today, and join the live portion of our broadcast.
Stay
Next.
tuned.